The sound of my own scream still echoes in my nightmares. Not because of the pain, though feeling your father's car tire crush your foot is agony beyond words, but because of what came after. Laughter. My sister Candace's delighted shriek of amusement as I collapsed. Groceries scattered across the driveway, my sock already soaking with blood. My mother stepped onto the porch, arms crossed, watching me writhe on the concrete like I was entertainment. "Well," she said with that cold smile I knew too well, "maybe next time you won't act above your station." That's when I realized something that would change everything. I wasn't their daughter. I was their victim. And victims who survive long enough eventually become something much more dangerous. For 25 years, I lived as the family ghost. The one who cleaned, carried, served, and smiled through every humiliation. While my sorority princess sister Candace flaunted designer bags and posted TikToks about her perfect life, I was her unpaid assistant, her human footstool, her emotional punching bag wrapped in the word family. Every week, she'd host wine nights with her sorority friends, treating our home like her personal restaurant and me like the waitress. "Take this," she'd command, shoving her $1,000 handbag at me without even looking. "Don't get your peasant grease on it." The casual cruelty was suffocating, but it was the expectation that broke me. They genuinely believed I existed to serve them. My parents weren't just enablers. They were architects of my misery. Dad would grunt orders from his recliner while Mom orchestrated elaborate scenarios to humble me. Make me smell Candace's shoes after she kicked me. Force me to stand in hallways for hours over imaginary crimes. Deny me food if I showed even a flicker of defiance. The day everything exploded started like any other. Candace arrived with her usual entourage, demanding I carry her bags, serve drinks, clean up their mess. But this time when she thrust that designer bag at me, something inside me finally said no. My feet were bleeding from running errands in her heels. My back ached from scrubbing floors. My spirit was shattered from years of abuse disguised as tough love. "I'm not carrying your bag," I said quietly. The words hung in the air like a bomb. Candace's mock gasp echoed across the yard. "Oh my God, Dad. She's refusing again. We've got a rebel." Her voice dripped with theatrical delight, like she'd been waiting for this moment to finally destroy me completely. My father's response was swift and merciless. "You want to act like a stranger? You can walk like one." He climbed into his car, engine revving like a threat. My sister slid into the passenger seat, grinning with anticipation. "Get in," he grunted. "I'm not carrying her bag," I repeated, my voice stronger now. Wrong answer. His eyes met mine in the rearview mirror, cold and calculating. "Get in the car or walk. But if you walk, you better not cross my driveway again. You either serve this family or you're out of it." I stood frozen, grocery bags still in my hands, trying to process that my father was essentially disowning me over a handbag. The absurdity might have been funny if it wasn't so devastating. Then he reversed, and I started walking away. I didn't even hear the tire until it was rolling over my left foot. The pain exploded like lightning through my entire body. I screamed, dropped everything, fell to my knees gasping. Through my tears I saw my father's face in the side mirror. Not shocked, not sorry, but satisfied. Like he'd finally put me in my place. Candace's laughter pierced the air like broken glass. Mom appeared on the porch, hands on her hips, watching my agony like it was a soap opera. "Well, maybe next time you won't act above your station. He didn't break your mouth, so use it to apologize." Apologize? To the man who just ran over my foot because I wouldn't carry a purse. "You refused to carry your sister's bag," Dad said, as if that justified attempted vehicular assault. "That's family disrespect. You're 25, not a baby. Stop whining." That night, locked in the bathroom, cleaning blood from my sock while my big toe turned black, I felt something die inside me. But something else was born. Something cold, patient, and absolutely ruthless. The next day, Mom told the neighbors I'd tripped. Candace posted a TikTok mimicking a limping drama queen, pointing her designer boot at the camera with a caption, Guess whose foot got in the way? Not mine. Nail polish. I didn't respond. I watched and I planned. For 3 weeks, I became the perfect victim again, dragging my damaged foot around the house with fake smiles and obedient nods, carrying Candace's bags without complaint, serving Dad his coffee like a broken-down housemaid. They thought they'd finally crushed my spirit completely. They had no idea I was building a nuclear weapon. It started with the garage. Dad's sacred kingdom of vintage tools, car trophies, and most importantly, stacked folders of family financial records. He kept no digital records, claiming paper was safer, and passwords were scams. He used one key for everything, which I'd stolen months earlier during one of his wallet theft accusations. At midnight on a Tuesday, I slipped into that garage and photographed everything. Bank receipts, property deeds, secret accounts under only his name, loans Mom didn't know about. Most shocking of all, Candace's fake lip gloss business was being funded through what he told everyone was my college tuition fund, money he claimed I'd blown on useless art school nonsense. There was no tuition fund. Just a slush pile for my sister's vanity projects. Next came Candace herself. She left her laptop open during a live stream, filming a Get Ready With Me video in our kitchen because she liked the grimy peasant core vibe. When she walked away midstream to yell at me about mopping faster, she forgot to close her banking tab. What I found there was explosive. Payments from older men under vague labels. She wasn't just selling lip gloss. She was selling much more. But worse than that were the other transactions. Payments to bully girls from her sorority, fake medical papers to skip exams, donations to professors funneled through Dad's accounts. By week 4 I had everything I needed. A complete dossier of their lies, crimes, and corruption, all stored safely in a cloud folder I labeled Shovel, because I was about to bury them all. Their wedding anniversary party was the perfect stage for my revenge. When I offered to help, they were stunned. I smiled sweetly and said I'd finally realized I was the problem and wanted to be better. You see, Mom told our neighbor proudly, some girls just need tough love. We raised her right. I cleaned the house until it sparkled, polished wine glasses until they gleamed, and arranged their wedding photos across the dining table like a museum exhibit. At exactly 7 p.m., 50 guests arrived to a house that smelled like roses and slow-cooked brisket. Candace descended the stairs in white satin, trying to outshine any bride. Dad wore his Marine Corps pin with pride. Mom greeted each guest with false modesty and calculating eyes. And me. I wore all black and limped around with my cane, invisible as always. Until I wasn't. At exactly 8:30 p.m., as Candace raised her wine glass for a toast to the most amazing parents ever, I stepped onto the dining table barefoot, pulled the microphone from her grip, and cleared my throat. To love, I said softly, tapping the mic once. Every conversation stopped. To family. 50 pairs of eyes turned toward me. To the kind of family that makes their daughter smell shoes after being kicked in the face. Gasps echoed through the room. Candace froze mid-smile. Mom's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. Because that's what filth is good for, right? I continued, my voice steady as a surgeon's scalpel. Isn't that what you told me, Mom? Or when Dad drove over my foot and told me I was lucky I still had a mouth to say thank you with. Someone laughed nervously. Dad's face turned crimson. You shut that. No, I said calmly. I'm 25, not a baby. Isn't that what you said? That if I didn't like it, I could leave. I reached under the table and pulled out a shoebox. Candace's face drained of all color. Inside was her boot, the one she'd worn the day she kicked me, the one from her TikTok. I had cleaned it, polished it until it gleamed like a trophy. I lifted it into the air like Excalibur. I'm not walking away, I announced to the silent room. I'm walking over everything you think you own. And I dropped that boot heel first onto their wedding album in the center of the table. The heel punched straight through my parents' smiling faces in their tuxedo and wedding dress. Mom screamed. Dad lunged forward. But before they could reach me, someone else stepped out of the crowd, and everything changed. Uncle Mason. Of all people, my mother's estranged brother. The one they never invited, the one they said went crazy after Vietnam and stole from the family. The one they told everyone I shouldn't talk to because he lives in a trailer and has nothing but war medals and bad opinions. Except Mason was standing there in a perfectly tailored black suit, hands in his pockets, watching calmly as my father shouted and Candace shrieked about humiliation and defamation. "You two done," Mason said dryly. Mom blinked in shock. "Why are you even here?" He smiled. "Got an invite from your daughter." "You're not family," Dad snapped. "Neither are you," Mason replied, nodding toward me. The room went silent again. Mason stepped closer, his voice carrying the quiet authority of a man who'd seen real war. "You want to talk about family? Let's talk. You tortured your kid until she limped and smiled through it. You threw her under a car, fed her scraps, made her clean your boots like she was some animal. And now you're surprised she bit back. Get out of my house," Dad bellowed. "Sure," Mason said peacefully. "But first, I think your guests might want to hear why your house's equity line got frozen this morning." Dad's eye twitched. I stepped forward on my cane and handed Mason a thick folder. "Everything's in there," I said clearly. "The fraudulent insurance claims, the side accounts, Candace's slush fund, the falsified documents he used to claim veteran homeowner status." Mason whistled appreciatively. "Sloppy work, Bill." Dad reached for the folder. "Touch it," I said coldly, and I pressed send. "Send what?" Mom demanded. Held up my phone. "I sent copies of everything to the IRS, your mortgage lender, and that veterans group you lied to for tax exemptions. They should be reading your anniversary email with attachments right about now." Dad's face went corpse pale. "You're bluffing. Check your phone." His hands shook as he unlocked it. The screen immediately lit up with push notifications. One from his bank app, several from email. He sat down hard in the nearest chair. Candace grabbed her purse and tried to flee. But Mason smoothly moved in front of the door. "Oh, honey," he said sweetly. "You forgot something." He tossed her another envelope. She caught it with trembling fingers. "That one's from the college board," he explained to the riveted audience. "They were very curious about your donation patterns. Seems your professors won't be returning your calls." "You ruined my life," she shrieked at me. "No," I said, walking past her with graceful dignity despite my limp. "You did. I just cleaned up." Candace lunged at me like a wild animal. I simply stepped aside, and she crashed straight into the chocolate anniversary cake. Mousse exploded across her white satin gown, her perfect hair, her surgically enhanced face. Gasp. Phones came out to record. And still, not one person said a word in my family's defense. I walked to the center of the room and lifted Candace's boot one more time. The boot I'd been forced to smell, the boot she'd kicked me with, the boot that symbolized years of abuse. I placed it gently on their framed wedding photo. "May you walk in your own filth," I whispered. Then I turned and left. They didn't follow. Mason drove me to his cabin that night. He didn't say much, just let me lean back with my swollen foot elevated and a packed bag in my lap. He handed me a cold soda, turned up old jazz on the radio, and said simply, "You did what had to be done." I stayed with him for 6 months. Got therapy. Relearned how to walk evenly. Started selling art online under a fake name. People started buying my work. Real people who appreciated real talent, not family members demanding free labor. 6 months later, I found a dusty box Mason had left on the porch. Inside was Candace's boot, bronzed and mounted on a block of wood, engraved with the words, "For when filth rises higher than the heel that tried to crush it." Smiled. That heel would never touch me again. The last I heard, Dad lost the house to back taxes and fraudulent loan investigations. Mom moved in with her sister and tells everyone I'm mentally unstable. Candace had to drop out of college when her professor bribes came to light, and her social media empire collapsed when screenshots of her bullying payments went viral. They thought they could break me. Instead, they taught me something invaluable. Sometimes the only way to escape hell is to burn it down on your way out. And sometimes, just sometimes, the person everyone underestimates is exactly the person you should fear most.